Hey, you wild women. Here we are. Oh my gosh. I'm still riding the high of Pink Scar Project. I'm not going to deny that. Um, and in the process of getting this business to this position, people have asked, Renee, how do you do it? I will admit to not being the best on Instagram. I will admit to not sharing as much information as I could. I should, all these things, should, could, whatever. But people often ask, how do you do it? How do you stay fit? How do you have a great marriage? How do you run your business? How do you have a great relationship with your kids? And while I wrote a crap ton of notes about what I could talk about today, I really want you to understand what it boils down to is that I am nobody special. I am nobody different, nor is my husband. We put in the work, we put in the effort, and I think it all comes down to being consistent. Consistency is your currency. But really, it comes down to believing that you can do it and breaking the flippin' rules while you're on the path to living the dreams of full alignment in a place that you want to live, in a company you want to work in, work for, or create, with a partner that you want, with the relationship with your family, kids, and friends that you want. Because it's really your life to live. Somebody else created rules for you, and it's up to you to decide which ones you actually want to follow. From who to marry, from the religion that you're going to follow, from the type of business that you're going to have, to whether or not your kids are homeschooled, they go to a public school. When people ask me, how do we do it? It's not really, they don't want to know the tactical stuff. They want to hear if they actually have the confidence to do it for themselves, if they actually have the courage and the bravery to follow their passions too. I like that I can be that positive example. I love being able to create that impact, but it's also very, very challenging. From our marriage perspective, Dan and I haven't always had a great relationship, but we loved each other so much, and we still do, and we believe in each other so much that now, whenever we're hit with those rough, tough patches, we know how to disarm and get through the weeds as fast as possible. But it wasn't always that way. And let me tell you, there were a handful of times that we wanted to separate. Like, this is the whole behind the scenes, the reality is that nothing's perfect, is that our kids have all gone through little health scares, that there's mental health issues all the time. Everybody experiences it. And I'm not embarrassed by it. I used to be. And the point of this episode really is because people kept asking, Renee, how do you do it? What's the behind the scenes? What's the trick? Is there a playbook for this? And really, it's not. It's just watch how we do it. Watch how the people you admire do it, and then take what works for you and make it your own. And so today, the behind the scenes and stuff that I don't share on social media are things like the health issues that I had leading up to my big event. Here's the crazy thing. If you're in this space and you're an expert, I want to know, why did I have perimenopausal-like symptoms while I was stressed leading up to the event? Because literally the week after the event, my hot flashes went away, my night sweats went away, and now I feel fine. This happened twice before under stressful circumstances. And I didn't talk about it that much, but I was tired. There are days, like today actually was one of them, I did not feel like showing up, did not feel like recording this episode, did not feel like going out for lunch with all of Dan's crew from Empire Builders. And even some of my besties are in town from Australia, from across Canada. But knowing that on the other end of like getting up, getting ready, putting on a cute dress, a Kavari dress, by the way, Kivari, that's my friend Kiki's company, putting on some makeup and getting out the door was like the first step into accomplishing one thing, but also the first step into continuously feeding my dream. Because dreams will stay dreams unless you take action, and then they become reality. You have to take action. And a lot of you might be thinking, gosh, well, Renee, what's the first action? You know it. It's something. If you're writing a book, it's the first paragraph. If you're writing a book, it's like deciding what it is you're going to write about and then being consistent about it. Some people make it look easy. And maybe Dan makes it look easy. Maybe I make it look easy, but it's not. It takes motivation. It takes grit. It takes perseverance to be able to create a life you want to live and inspire others to do it too, but also make sure that the waves you leave behind your boat, the wake you've created, is helping somebody else. And so I would cry in my car on the way to the office. I would wake up at 3 a.m. Consistently for a month. I woke up every single day at 3 a.m. Half the time I could fall back asleep, the other half I couldn't. But I was so tired that I couldn't just wake up and work out or wake up and work because my brain wasn't even on. It felt like such wasted time. So I learned from like all of these things leading up to the sale of my PR agency. When I launched my first PR agency in the same year as having my 2 kids, the things that I did, there was a lot of really tough times. I was not healthy. I was what they call skinny fat. And I struggled so much to maintain relationships, to create relationships, because at the end of the day, I just wanted to go home and be with my kids, or I wanted to be alone. And so and I say this often, the number one thing you can do in business is to create and maintain relationships. Like networking is the biggest deal. It is the one that has the largest ROI. If you can network and make friends and make connections and maintain those relationships and invest and pour into the relationships and the people that have such meaning to you, that actually they feel it. That takes work. So why I'm sharing this for you, because this is for you this gives you the permission to be a human being, not a human doing. We think that, to check all the boxes, to be like Alex and Layla Hermosi, or maybe like Dan and I, or other couples and people you admire, you feel like there's this checklist you have to get through. And it's different for everybody because everybody's story is different. And also, we don't necessarily want to achieve or attain what these people have attained, because sometimes it's just not for us. It's not in our cards. Like, for instance, my husband has a supercar collection, and I love that for him. I don't care. Like, I love driving these cars, don't get me wrong. But if he had a different interest, I wouldn't be sad if we didn't have these cars. You know what I mean? So you don't necessarily have to subscribe to the lifestyle and the same dreams that these people have, but you need to take note of what it is that they're doing. Alex Hermosi said if he had any advice for somebody, a male particularly, between the ages of like 16 and 24, he said something along the lines of, you should be working like 10-hour days, 6 or 7 days a week. I think that's absurd. But to some people, like there's kids here at Martell Ventures and Martell Media, I'm looking at them now, that are like 18 years old. This is like their summer internship turned into a job. They graduated high school. They don't want to go to college yet, if at all. And they work their butts off and they're grinding and they have the energy. And this is the place they want to be. It is not for everybody. Because if it was, then we wouldn't have the people that are building the buildings and recording the podcast episodes and making our clothes or packing our groceries. So just know that it's not for everybody. But I want this to be the permission for you to be a human being and not a human doing. And just know that if you're struggling in all this, you're not alone. And you should certainly not be doing it alone. Because, that's instantly, this is how you're going to fail. If you have something on your heart to share with somebody about maybe some struggles that you're living through now, personally, professionally, have a friend, have a go-to mentor where you can just text or call up and be like, here's the thing I'm experiencing. Can you help me through this? You need those people. That is how I got to where I am in my business. That's how I got to where I am in the event with this podcast, is leaning on the people who are more than happy to help me with getting through this thing that I'm facing. The other thing is, and this is myth busting, is that there's no such thing as overnight success. I know you've heard this before, but it's gosh darn true. You look at anybody, you look at Mel Robbins, people are like, God, she came out of nowhere. That's not true. She lived a life of regrets, a life of like alcoholism and hating her life before one day it just clicked. And God gave her this idea to be a voice for women, especially that are middle-aged, thinking that their life is over. And look at her. Like hardly ever hardly ever in the history of professional speakers and influencers like Mel Robbins has there ever been a woman who is middle-aged that actually never middle-aged. She got to be one of the top podcasts in the world. That was men. And when we look at these scenarios, actually, it didn't, like, the media society they don't care what age a man starts a business or grows a business or what age they became successful. But for some reason, we attach so much meaning to women when they start. So if you're 60 years old listening to this and you have a desire to go and do something, go and do it. Please go and do it. Not only are you giving yourself permission to follow through with something that you have on your heart, you're opening up the doors for other people to do the same thing. A friend of mine just told me yesterday that they started doing jujitsu, and she's like 40 years old, which still seems so young. She's like, I felt like it. That's like, I started taking drum lessons when I was 38. So also too is like, let's look at timelines. Timelines is the biggest thing. Like what comes up for me, especially, I think this is something that John Maxwell says, is that most people want what I achieve, but nobody's willing to do the work to get there because they see the results of the work, but they're not looking behind the curtain. They're not looking at the grunt work that went into it, the years that went into it, the tough conversations, the failures, the sleepless nights. Most people want that quick pill to get from A to Z. They're not willing to do the work. Here's an example of my son. So we have a rule at our house. In order to get a cell phone, you have to be 12 years old. And yet 12, you're invited to earn a cell phone. You don't just get it by way of being 12 years old. And we have these tasks that they have to do. And right now, Max, he'll be turning 13 in a couple months, and he's still hasn't done it because we want them to understand what it means to earn a cell phone. So he started doing these tasks. He was watching 8 hours of videos, answering questions that we put together about the videos and on a subject matter that he likes. He got an hour and a half, 2 hours into watching the videos, and he turned to me, handed the phone back, and he said, I actually don't want it that much. Right? So he wants the outcome of the phone, but he doesn't want to do the work. So what I'm saying is behind the scenes crap, it happens all the time. I'm up at like 5, 6 a.m. checking emails, checking social. Leading up to the event, there was last minute ticket sales. I was like going to bed at midnight, getting up at 5 a.m., sending invoices to people who wanted a ticket the day of the event, hours before the doors opened. I didn't just show up with hair and makeup and walk onto the stage. There was so much that we had to do. And because this was the first event, I was so clueless, so clueless. It was fun. But all this saying is like, I was the human doing in all of this. And there's still part of me that's like, hasn't even just sat down and been like, wow, we did that. We created this movement. Like, to create a movement, oh my God, I might start crying now. It's the most beautiful thing. It's the most beautiful thing when you get this download from God, source, spirit, whatever it is, universe. And they're like, hey, here's a nudge. Here's a whisper. Go follow your path. And then you actually do it. Yeah, it's hard. But then you get this outcome that is beyond your expectation. Wow. The problem is that most people don't get there because they don't believe they're worthy of it. They don't have the confidence. Going to the behind the scenes. I'm telling you this right now, and I know this of myself. It was only really in the last 2 months of my life, can you believe this? 2 months that I actually felt worthy of everything that I've achieved. From the book that I authored to being mentored by some of the most brilliant people, to sitting in the room with my idols, to hanging out with Lori and Chris Harder all weekend, to all these things, to, you know, being nominated as a phenomenal woman of the year, to making $1 million in my business and having like 60% profit margins. Even though there was all of these reminders of my success, inside I felt like I didn't deserve it. I felt like an imposter because I thought it should be harder because success shouldn't come easy, right? Isn't that the story that they tell us? And so because of that, I wouldn't show up online. I wouldn't be posting stories or Instagrams or reels. And I wouldn't be doing the thing that I know I needed to do. Yet here I am, only because I'm 43 years old. And it was only the last couple months that I actually feel like I deserve this. And guess what happened? The moment I stepped into that worthiness, my skin changed, my hair started growing again, and people noticed. They even came up to me. They held my hand, they held my shoulders, and they're like, Renee, we see the difference. You look different. It is like the most relieving thing in the world. It's like you have this Band-Aid you have to rip off and you finally just do it and it's painful for like a second. And then after that, you're fine. So what this journey means for you is understanding that the middle is messy and it's a path. It's not a detour, and the path is not straight. It's like that roller coaster, right? It goes upside down, sideways, backwards, who knows? And it was every obstacle and detour in your path was meant to be there, because it's either telling you don't go this way, or it's holding up a mirror to your emotions and feelings saying, hey, check yourself here, right? So anytime you have an invitation to go to a dinner, to be on stage, to get on a sales call, to be interviewed for something is an invitation to step into this power. And maybe you want this job and you didn't get it. It's not only a sign, it was meant to be. So in this journey, you need to build your support system, get those friends, get the family members that are on board with you to support you. Document the journey, including the hard parts. This is where like journaling comes in. I use a 5-minute journal in the morning, and it helps you reflect on the day, the morning and the evening. Get the support system. I have a couple of friends that are literally on speed dial for certain facets of my life. Talk about venting about something that I'm facing personally. Then I have business friends that I'm like, what do I do? How do I do this? And they're there for me, and vice versa. You can't move forward and advance in life if you don't have that support system. But also know this, regardless of the outcome, you are exactly where you need to be. Exactly where you need to be. The struggle doesn't mean you're failing. It would just mean that you were meant to experience it. Perfect example. People keep asking me, Renee, are you writing a book? I've written a book about public relations. I'm not in that industry anymore, and I will never go back. But I know there's a book in me. And they ask, why haven't you started? And I said with conviction, I know this. I haven't lived the experience yet for the story I need to tell. Isn't that fascinating? Like, I know I trust this so much. It's not that I don't want to do it because I have time to do it and I know the process of writing a book. I just know I have not lived the experience yet for the story that needs to be told. And always ask for help, right? That's the wisdom. Go to somebody who's done it before. The best advice comes from somebody who has successfully done it before. Get their advice. Ask for someone to be a mentor. Most people are so willing to help. It's crazy. And if you're considering starting a business, it's harder than it looks on Instagram. Most people fail. Most people fail in their first year. It's also way the hell more rewarding than you can imagine. Once you actually start making the money, you get that momentum. You don't need to have it all figured out from day one. You don't. I failed. I can't tell you how many times. Things like somebody on my team once, when we were running a really great blog for public relations for funded SaaS companies, it was in the top blogs in the world for this. And they ripped off an image. It was a Getty image. They used it without paying. And they're smart about this. And this was back in like 2012. And they found us, or maybe 2013. And they said, hey, you use this image without permission. Sure enough, they used it as a header on the blog. It was a team member. And at first, I think like the fine was $5,000. Come on, when you're first starting out, that's a ridiculous amount of money. And I said, oh my gosh, crap. And they brought it down to $1,500, but it was an expensive mistake. And then also just like contractually stuff with clients. We didn't have client stuff dialed in, and there were clients that refused to pay their invoice despite us doing all the work. So we were chasing now pennies on the dollar to get the money so that I can pay my team. Not myself, pay my team. And I just realized that I don't have to have this all figured out. Nobody does. Nobody actually knows what's going on most of the time. They have an inkling, but they can't predict it because most of these businesses in the manner that we're running them have never been done before. And if they have, it's different. Like Coke, Pepsi, different. They each have their own secrets, their own team, their own methods. But how we're doing things have never been done before, right? So you do not have to have it figured out. And here's also what I want to talk about, this highlight reel trap, like the trap that we often settle into because people make it seem so perfect. I definitely have respect for the people who are raw. They say, this crap happened, this is happening in life, and here's what I'm experiencing, and here's how I got out of it. There are some people that just show up and everything's pretty and polished. And you know what? That works for them. And I'm not shaming them, but also be mindful of the people who don't ever share their failures because they're trying to prove something, whether it's to themselves or to other people. You want to go to the people who are showing the wins, but also showing the failures and how they got out of it to get that win. In the highlight reel trap, we're talking about like curated content only about launches and wins and losing the weight and getting the body and finding the man of my dreams and starting the business, and everything's perfect. It's BS. It does not exist. The truth is that those moments, they're not real. And it's also not all of it. We know that and in this day and age, I know this without a shadow of a doubt, in social media especially, it is so inauthentic when everything is perfect. You know, these people you follow on TikTok and they like have the best relationship ever. And like every second or third TikTok is like the couple like traveling the world and kissing. And then all of a sudden, all the TikToks are just her. And I'm not judging or shaming anyone's experience about what they want to share online, but they've created this perfectly curated life of what it looks like. And all of a sudden this guy is no longer in the picture. And it's like, 5, 6, 10 TikToks in, you're like, what happened? And they're like just nonchalant, like, oh, we broke up. But yet their entire branding is around them as a couple. So they're like, actually, it just seems so fake because they've built up their following by being together and now they're not. It's almost like they're doing a disservice to their people by not explaining the story. That's maybe a terrible example. But imagine if it was a little bit more raw, a little bit more, hey, here's where we're at. Here's the journey. And here's how I'm feeling. Then you're like, ooh, I'm double clicking on this because I want to know what's going on. Right? People actually like to know that you're a human. And sometimes we sit here and we think, gosh, what am I going to post on social media today? It has everything to do with how someone can relate to you by being authentic. That's what it comes down to. The problem too with social is that the algorithm often rewards aspirational content. Have 10 supercars and a private jet and happy, healthy wife and life. But, and there's nothing wrong with my life. It's crap. It's crap. Like there are days, like I wake up and I turn to Dan and I was like, holy crap, I can't believe this is our life. Pinch me. Right. And then that same night when our heads hit the pillow, we just kind of go through the Meadow report about our day. And I realized the crap sandwiches that he had to eat and the stuff that happened in my business, in my life too. And maybe we don't talk about it because we don't think you care. But we eat shit sandwiches every day, all day. The more you do it, the better you get at it. But we fall into this trap of like painting this perfect picture of success because there's so much pressure to look successful. Vulnerability feels way too risky when maybe you're trying to attract clients. Like, I get it. Imagine saying that you did all this work for a client, like in the world of PR, for instance. You pitch all these people, you have the perfect contacts, the perfect pitches, and they don't get picked up. And you've pitched 100 people and you've done the same thing for another client that's in a similar industry and they're getting all the news and you can't figure out why it's working. And it frustrates you. And then you share that content online, right? Even if this is months or years later, and then a potential client looks at that and sees it, first thing they're going to say is, well, they can't do their job. So there's this risk of sharing that vulnerability because you might lose a customer or client, or you might lose followers. We often think that showing struggle actually means that we're weak. And we fear that authenticity will hurt our business. Well, it also depends on what you share. So don't be a complete idiot. See, here's the thing, is when you're being put together all the time, it's almost like you're in this prison, the put together prison. because you're always trying to look perfect and seek perfection and hide the crap that's happening and not get help. And you go home and you're just lying to yourself the whole day because you're on the struggle bus and there's no stop and you can't get off. You're in prison. It creates tension. It's dishonest. It's inauthentic, and it's going to kill you literally because you're so stressed out about trying to be perfect for yourself, for your clients, for the internet, that you fail to recognize that it's just not the truth. It's so inauthentic. So here's the thing about like, oh my God, misaligned stories. Let me tell you, I remember one time a mentor of mine said, when you're first starting out, say yes to every speaking opportunity. I think there's some fairness in that. But what happened was I got down this rabbit hole of speaking at online summits for free. You know those people? They reach out and they say, we'd love to have you come and speak at our summit for free. Here's the potential exposure, and here are the other people that are speaking. The only thing that we need from you is to send an email, 3 emails to your list of a minimum of 5,000 subscribers, and post a story and a reel and a post. Like, I don't know if that stuff still exists, and maybe it works for some people. I started doing that. And I started stressing out because they wanted unique content. I was building out these webinars and I was building out these presentations. And then I was emailing my list to sign up to somebody else's program, sharing it on social. And in the end, it did absolutely nothing for me but help them grow their reach. And I was saying yes to this stuff because I was told that I needed to say yes to this. And I wasn't working on my business back then. I was struggling to appease all these other people who wanted to take advantage of the community, the newsletter, the social following that I grew, that I put time and money into. So finally, I started replying to these people saying, I would be absolutely honored to help you with this. Couple conditions. Here's my speaking fees. This is an absolute must. And I will not be using my email list to promote this event. Shut them down quickly. No one ever responded because I know the tactic. I never did it. I never liked it. I felt it was very sleazy. But behind the scenes, I was struggling because I took that advice verbatim and I said yes to every speaking opportunity, even if it didn't make sense, and it exhausted me. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. As a business owner, every single decision I make always comes back to how profitable can we be. That is not a douche move, by the way. If you're a business owner, that is absolutely everything. From running the Pink Square Project 2026, speaking to other potential venues for the event, and looking at something that's like 5-6 times more expensive, and how that plays into profit margins. I think the opportunity is better, but it's like, do we really need to do that? Because we want to create the experience and have the same impact that we have. Could we just replicate exactly what we did last year and have the same impact? Heck yes. But there's always this like pressure and inspiration and motivation to go bigger and to charge more. When is it necessary? I don't know. Follow your intuition. So anyways, there's this misalignment. And when it came down to all these summits, I just say no to those. And I'm like, hey, I wish you the best of luck. So how did I get over this? Oh my gosh, all these things. One is focus on a good night's sleep. We have the 4-3-2-1 principle at our house. No emotionally charging conversations 4 hours before bed, because I hold on to those conversations. No 3 hours. Oh my gosh. No, don't eat 3 hours close to bedtime. Stop watching any blue screens or electronics 2 hours before bedtime, and no hydration 1 hour before bedtime. You should be perfectly hydrated, have a pee, go to bed. You should be able to sleep all night. So I try to abide by these rules while also taking my supplements so that I have a good night's sleep. Hydrated, wake up. Morning routine is important. It doesn't have to be so dialed in that it's ridiculous, but just know that there's a default routine you should go back to because it helps set you up for that day. So I don't wake up at 3 a.m. Those days when I don't wake up at 3 a.m., I feel good. I keep a notepad beside my bed. Let me tell you, the trick to being able to fall back asleep, regardless of what's going on, is to take a notepad, a sticky note, and you just write out the things that are bothering you. They could be reminders or they could be some emotions, and that helps. Also understand the decision fatigue in all of this. Like, gosh, I don't know how many decisions a woman makes in a day, like 36,000, maybe more. Just try to minimize how many decisions you have to make. I, for one, will do my best at looking at the weather for tomorrow and choosing what I want to wear the next day. I'm not like Mark Zuckerberg or my husband. I like to wear a variety of different clothes because I think that just complements my personality. And so I have a lot of great clothes. So I look in my closet and I think, is it a dress day? Is it a pant day? What is it? And I have an idea of what I'm going to wear. I also need to know if today's a washing my hair day. All these decisions, these are the behind the scenes. And like, let's talk about also parenting in all of this. Because one of the hardest things I ever had to do was to delegate parenting. So this was getting a caregiver, our house manager, Betty, to do school drop-offs, school pickups, bringing them to soccer games, signing them up for camps, signing them up for activities, coordinating with other mothers for play dates. I remember when I first started doing this, I got so much pushback. A comment in particular stung along the lines of, why be a mother if you can't do all these things for your kids? Right? Like, ouch, absolute ouch. I don't think that doing all those things for your kids is what makes you a good mother. And if that's our motivation in life, is to identify as a good mother and to appease others based on their standards of what a good mother is, good luck, sister. That is exhausting. Behind the scenes, I don't grocery shop. I don't clean my car. I don't clean my house. Behind the scenes, I don't pack my kids' lunches or make meals. I make their breakfast every day because I enjoy doing that. They get probably way more screen time than I like, and they don't play enough sports. There you go. There you have it. That's it. I will not coddle my kid. I'm not a helicopter parent. And if you disagree with me, that's you, right? And I was so caught up in the idea of what it meant to be a great mother that I looked at people whom I admired and I tried to replicate their parenting style, and it didn't feel good because it was inauthentic to me. It was a lie. And like, kids can feel it. They know it's the energy. And so like, behind the scenes too, in our marriage, we've worked with a kabillion, and that's a number, therapists, professionals, parenting coaches, Esther Perel, sex coaches, spiritual coaches, my gosh, Dan's old child psychologist, coach, whatever he was, because we understood that we're coming from different childhoods with different traumas and different expectations for what it means to be a father, a mother, a parent, in a marriage. That of course things aren't going to be perfect. That of course we're going to feel these inklings to not be together or these tugs at something else. We knew we needed to do the work. And right now we're in such a good spot because we did the work and we keep doing the work. Oh my gosh, the work is like every single day, from things like takeoff and landings. What that is before one of us leaves the house, we go and kiss the other person and say, bye, I'm leaving. And as soon as they come home, beeline it straight to the person and say, hey, honey, I'm home. That is it. It takes 2 seconds. These little things that we've built into the fabric of our relationship to be able to let it soar has taken 15 years of practice. And we get better. We get smarter. We get new information. And right now we're in such a great place. And also, I flippin' love what I do with the Pink Skirt Project. Let's talk about alignment behind the scenes. I was so miserable in the world of PR because I didn't like doing it. And it was never really my idea to sign up for it. We had a agency that started by doing social media and content marketing. And then people kept asking, do we do PR? For sure. Let's try it out. We did it. It worked. And then when we did the analytics in terms of like what was the best ROI for us, we noticed that public relations had a much larger return profit margin because the content marketing and social media back then took so much time. So we became just a PR agency. Then I got just into PR and I didn't like it. I never did. I liked the strategy, but I didn't like the actual act of pitching, following up, seeking opportunities. It's not how my brain works. It was such repetitive work. I like diversity. I like different tasks, different conversations, different meetings every single day. So it was inauthentic to myself. So I hated it, even though I was getting paid so well. And that's what I became known for. And yes, I was okay burning it all down to follow something else completely. And guess what happened? Being in alignment with what I love to do not only made me happy and had an impact on my community, it made our marriage better. It made me a happier human coming home at the end of the day, being with my kids. It is so fascinating. Okay, what else can we talk about behind the scenes? Oh my gosh, there's just so much. The real raw stuff is the anger, the frustration. It really is, and I'm still working on this, being okay that I'm going to disappoint people in my life that I love, like my parents, my sister, family, friends, because I believe things to be different. I have different values and I want to live a different life. Getting to that point where it's okay if I do things differently is the most rewarding thing ever. So much to talk about here, the real raw truth. And even the moments of like breastfeeding as another example was I remember sitting at this table at the top of Powder Mountain in Utah when I was used to go to these events with Dan, and a woman was there with her son who was just a little bit younger than my son Max at the time. And I think Max was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 months old, and I had stopped breastfeeding at the time. And I gave Max to Dan. I went downstairs to go to the bathroom, and she was there holding her kid and looking at Max and looking at Dan. And she had the audacity to ask this question: is Renee still breastfeeding? I was like, okay. I came back upstairs. Dan looked at me and he looks like he'd seen a ghost. And she left and we talked, and he's like, she just asked if you were still breastfeeding. And I was like, okay, like it's nobody's business. And he's like, I told her no. And she hasn't talked to me since. Isn't that crazy? One day I'm going to bring that up to her, I think, just so that she doesn't do it to other people. In those moments where women aren't supporting women, I felt so ashamed. And to this day, I still hold on to that moment, that like, holy jab, I'm a terrible mother. I did not breastfeed my kid for long enough. And I still tell myself the story. It's ludicrous. Again, behind the scenes, I feel all the same emotions that any other woman feels. Okay. How we get to live this beautiful life, as I look around the studio and I look at the cool team members that are here and the car keys for the car that I get to drive and the home I get to go home to. It is so achievable to every single person because we did it. My default is a simple life. My default is a simple home, is my kids going to a normal school and me having a normal job. I know that's my default. But I was put on earth to be here with Dan because we support each other. And so now we live this life. And now you kind of, when you get it, when you get an inch, it feels good. And sometimes you want to take a mile in terms of that feeling. But how we got here was really surrounding ourselves with the right people and knowing that there's a lot of tough conversations you're going to have, a lot of people you're going to piss off, a lot of hearts you're going to break, not out of being malicious, but just knowing that some people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And you have to know who those people are. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to those people and the trust you have in yourself. I would love to know from you. What more do you want to hear about the behind the scenes? I can just lay it all out there. But know that it is achievable for you. Hit me up on Instagram, Renee_Warren. Tell me your stories about some cool stuff that maybe I talked about that you do that might be a suggestion for me. Or if there's anything else you want to know, or if you need any help in any areas of your life so that you can feel more aligned with what you do, have more energy in the day because you love what you do, and just have more fun. Until next time, ladies, peace out.